I recently acquired this small machine tool, clearly a hand-operated shaping machine. A bit of research on the internet discovered that the machine was offered during the 1950s and 1960s as a set of castings by a company called E.W. Cowell of 7A Sydney Road, Watford in Hertfordshire, that's in the UK. No mean feat, I would think, to machine the castings to make this tool, and to avoid it ending up in the scrap bin somewhere, I decided to purchase it. The machine is fairly sophisticated really. It has automatic crossfeed and can machine an area about 6 inches by 6 inches. I've been attending to the Cowell hand shaper a little bit. I've replaced a number of missing jib adjusting screws and nuts on the slides, and adjusted the slides up, taken some of the play out of the main ram slide, etc. Not quite sure I've got it right at this stage, but certainly infinitely better than it was. There was a lot of up and down movement in the feed screw for the vertical slide, which I couldn't quite figure out, and it turned into a bit of a fight really, but eventually I worked out that under the dial there were two locking screws, which you kind of nut together as a lock nut, get it right, and it takes the up and down play out of the feed screw. I made a couple of pins by means of which I have locked the two parts of the locking nut together in such a way as to virtually eliminate the end play, slot, whatever you want to call it, on the feed screw of the vertical slide. The dial, graduated dial that fits on the top, was binding on the two locking rings, whatever you want to call them. So I've actually had to just ease out both the centre of the dial and actually just true up a little bit the two locking rings so that the two go together without binding, and it's a bit naff at the moment. I've put a little bolt in for the purposes of just locking the graduated dial in use, so you can just measure your depth of feed. I've made two rather chunky looking knobs to turn the top nut to replace the hexagon bolts that used to be in there. This pin is temporary, it sort of locks the wheel to the spindle. Curiously, the hole for it isn't drilled all the way through the spindle, so and nor is the hole tapped, so I don't know. I think I may consider either tapping the hole, there is a slight flat on the spindle, or in fact probably drilling the hole for the pin all the way through the spindle and just lightly pressing the pin in. I mean, this business shouldn't need removing hardly ever really. For the time being at least, I've tapped the wheel 6BA and put a 6BA locking screw, set screw in to lock the wheel to the spindle for the vertical slide. Camera's wobbling all over the place, but seems to be okay. I'll have to do a better job of the locking screw for the micrometer dial. In my box of HSS tool bits without purpose, I found this bit of HSS steel, which I've sort of, can't see it really, honed the end a little bit, just polished it. I'm sure it's ground totally to the wrong profile. It does fit the tool holder, so I'll put it in there and see what happens. I'll have to check out Adam Booth's channel, ABOM79 on YouTube, because he gave quite a lot of information on grinding tool bits for use with shapers. I mean, his is obviously a huge machine shaper, but doubtless the principle would hold for a hand shaper. I think I'm working on the principle of why do anything the right way when you can actually do it the wrong way, and hopefully learn a lot more in the process. The shape is just roughly clamped to the wood on top of my surface plate. The only vise I've been able to find so far, machine vise, that sort of was anything like the right size, was a little Myford vise I have. So I've clamped that using one bolt to the table and just put in a block of aluminium that I found in my bits box. Well, something's happening. It's cutting. It's quite difficult to get a clean and steady motion all the way through. The bench clamping arrangement is clearly not satisfactory. I've lubricated the work with a little bit of WD-40. Well, it is cutting. The finish is not fantastic, so clearly things like the depth of cut and maybe the cross feed aren't right, but I rather suspect one of the biggest problems is the tool grind. I seem to recall Adam Booth said that you should put a small radius on the cutting tool, so I think I'll try that. I've put a small radius on the end of the tool and also reset the tool more vertically to give a bit more, I don't know if you call it side rake, but rake anyway. I've also ground the tool rather more aggressively to give rake in other directions as well. It's cutting, The finish isn't fantastic, and I have to say life would have to be infinite to make a great deal of use of this tool. But I think if you had to cut a slot in something for a keyway or whatever, this might be a better way of doing it than certainly the lathe. And I guess if you didn't have a small enough end mill so you could grind something up specially, it might be an alternative to the mill itself. Well, there we are, one pass across the work. I think I'll go back and just give it a fine feed just to see if we can improve the finish. Okay, second pass. I haven't got the detent locked correctly. So that's this detent arrangement is not famous. I've probably put on about 10 thou down feed, I think, give or take. But the original finish is a bit uphill and down dale, so this detent keeps popping out. We have to have a look at that. It needs a stronger spring or something. Actually quite satisfying to do if you've got a year to spare. At my time of life I don't think actually that's the case, but still. This is becoming truly irritating. The detent mechanism keeps popping out and then the crossfeed doesn't work. If I was to use this device in anger, I'd clearly have to bolt it down. Still, on the upside, I'm making some chips. And my right arm will be the size of Popeye's by the time I'm finished. That's Popeye the Sailor. One of the weaknesses, in fact, is this sort of detente mechanism. You have to be really careful to get it in properly because it's got a tendency to skip over the serrations and then not feed. I don't know whether it needs a stronger spring or what. The finish on the work's not fantastic, but bearing in mind I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, and the tool's probably not ground correctly, and the shaper's not bolted down, and probably the method vise is not an ideal arrangement with one bolt in it. What can you expect? I might get a micrometer in a minute and just see if it's parallel to the other face, the surface I've been cutting, that is. This is the back of the work, 1329 give or take. This is the front face where the cutting stopped, 1332, 1333. On one side. I'll hold the camera and do this. That says 1329 again. It says about 1334, I think. Very difficult to do this holding the camera. So there could be something like 5 thou out of parallel, I guess. Couple of interesting discoveries. The first of which is I've discovered that if you rotate this detente mechanism, it works in the opposite direction. So for example, if you turn it one way, it feeds the work from left to right, and if you turn it the other way, the ratchet works in the reverse direction and feeds the work from right to left. So that's kind of curious. You have to get the thing in the right way round. More importantly, and it's my own stupidity, I was just having a look and I discovered, in fact, that these bolts, 4 bolts that hold the table, were barely finger tight. So the table wasn't completely and securely clamped to the shaper, and that could not have been doing a lot for my surface finish. I've also now ground the end of the tool much more aggressively, so I guess we'll have another go. Okay, a couple of factoids. The cross feed for each cut is approximately 15 thou. Sorry, I beg your pardon, the cross feed is about 10 thou per cut, and the depth of cut is approximately 20-21 thou. And as I say, this is aluminium, so it just gives a clue what can do. Now I've sort of clamped everything, the surface finish has seemed marginally better, but I still suspect the tool is not at all ground properly. I'm going to have to find a book and figure out what shape the end of the tool should be.